Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm DK Rosner. This is TTT News at noon. In the news at this time, the Ministry of Health has announced that 5 new persons have tested positive for COVID-19. A release from the ministry said today all 5 cases are primary contacts of a recently positive COVID-19 patient. There are currently 6 COVID-19 positive patients at the Cora Hospital, while the 5 new patients are en route to the hospital. For more developments from today's media conference, here is TTT News reporter Ian Wason.
Hi, good afternoon. And of course, with the Ministry of Health press media conference earlier this morning, some of the key takeaway points is that while they wanted to reopen the entertainment industry, but because they could not because of the cases that we would have had during the week. So, of course, the entertainment industry had to be put on hold. Despite the cases this week, Minister of Health, Terence Singh, indicated they are not contemplating any further restrictions or any lockdowns, as he would have stated previously, that because of the reopening of the economy, they expected these cases to come up. And of course, he did mention that the parallel health system is only at 5% capacity, so they are well equipped and ready for a rise in such cases. Also present at the conference was the Minister of National Security, Stuart Young, and he indicated that the police are, and by extension the army, they are there waiting to support the Ministry of Health in enforcing some of these restrictions. And some of restrictions are not legislated, so they have the limits in what they can do, but they will be enforcing these restrictions when it comes to the number of persons in public gatherings, parties, boat rides, and these things. So that will be enforced. He also commented on the illegal immigrants issue, and some persons are in police custody when it comes to that. He also touched on the storm preparations by the different agencies of the government in terms of first responders and these things like that. So these are some of the main takeaway points from the Ministry of Health COVID-19 press briefing. Ian Wason reporting for TTT News.
Thank you very much, Ian, and we will be moving from one Ian to another as Trinidad and Tobago has been experiencing heavy showers and thunderstorms due to the passage of Tropical Storm Gonzalo. Meteorologist Ian Wallace is here with us. Now, Ian, the tropical storm seems to have weakened. What is the latest?
Well, no, it hasn't weakened per se. If you look at the satellite images, it does look a bit ragged. It does have not necessarily defined center, but it still has something there that it's clinging on to. But right now, it is looking rather disorganized and poorly so. So let's look and see what's happening in terms of exactly. We still have the tropical storm warning in effect across Tobago in particular. And definitely you will notice that as you go through your next few hours, tropical storm conditions are still possible across Tobago with the likelihood of street or flash flooding and a very high risk of landslides and landslips and gusty winds over 85 kilometers per hour. Now, on the other hand, we have Trinidad, which is under an adverse weather alert at orange level. And you notice that the gusty winds here are just in excess of 65 kilometers per hour. But still, the effects of street or flash flooding, landslides and landslips is still there. Now, the hazardous seas alert will continue as we go into Sunday with Tobago and north coasts of Trinidad, eastern coasts of Trinidad with rough conditions, especially offshore. Up to 4 meters is expected here. And also in those bays, even around parts of the Gulf of Paria, etc. As the system moves through, we could be seeing some choppy seas through there as well. Now, right now, Gonzalo is just at 11 o'clock at 10.5 degrees north and 60.5 degrees west, which puts it at just about 90 kilometers east of the island, which is just about 75 kilometers or so south of Scarborough. Now, it is moving west at 30 kilometers per hour, but it's a lot of the convection is actually towards the west of that center. So still looking at quite a few of those showers across parts of Tobago into Trinidad as well. But it will be these pockets of intense showers, and that's where we'll likely see the impacts being felt as you go through the next 12 to 24 hours. As we talked about the winds, it is said struggling to maintain itself as a tropical storm, but it still is classified as such, and we'll continue to see some slight weakening as it gets towards later on today, but more so by Sunday it should become what we call an open trough. So you could still see some squally showers around, but as it is, Gonzalo is struggling to maintain itself. So in terms of the location, we did talk about it being just east of Trinidad. That is where its center is. But just remember that at this time of the year, we are heading towards the peak of our hurricane season, which is between mid-August and out towards October. So obviously for us here in Trinidad and Tobago and for the Windward Islands, this is when we will watch for the activity and all of those tropical waves coming off the coast of Africa and heading towards Trinidad and Tobago. And just one note, I was speaking with colleagues out there in the Meteorological Service and counterparts there. They've been basically answering the question of why there was not a tropical storm warning put into effect for Trinidad. Now, the main reason was because of that ragged nature of Gonzalo and the fact that we needed to see sustained winds of 85 kilometers per hour affecting parts of Trinidad, as well as a very defined circulation. As I said, that's more so for Tobago, at least as we go through the next few hours. For Trinidad, it's still under a severe weather alert, and that is adverse weather alert, and that is at an orange level. So obviously still be alert, try and secure your property, safeguard yourself, be prepared for the rains that will likely bring those downpours of street or flash flooding. And if you're in low-lying areas, as well as areas so prone to landslides, obviously take the necessary precautions. So that's how it's looking right now, DK.
Thank you very much, Ian, and we will continue to, and we are grateful that you continue to monitor the situation. On the line now with us, we have the CEO of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, retired Major General Rodney Smart. Thank you for joining us, Major General. Now, the storm, we know we had some heavy showers earlier, but what reports have you received thus far?
Okay, we have received reports from as far west as Diego Martin, all the way across in Tobago, down as well across to Manzanilla, Mayaro. If I can just give you a quick synopsis. In Tobago, we've received reports of a fallen tree that affected the health center in Lescoto, as well as in Argyle, there was a tree that fell on a bus shed. Both of these are being dealt with right now. In Diego Martin, we had another fallen tree on a house. In Laventel, there were reports of some flooding on the Eastern Main Road that affected one or two homes. And in Manzanilla, Mayaro, we had a report of a blown-up roof. So far, so good in terms of damages. Not too extensive, but of course, things that we are responding to.
All right, thank you so much. Now, the National Emergency Operations Center will be activated today to coordinate that response as well as relief efforts. Can you take us through a little bit of that process? Thank you.
Well, the National Emergency Operations Center, which is run by the ODPM, has already been activated. What we have is a number of other EOCs, Emergency Operations Centers, at the municipal corporation. They too have been activated, as well as TEMA, which activated yesterday, given that they were at greatest threat. What happens is that because these incidents are usually localized, as this one is, we have our municipal corporations and TEMA. They run operations from those centers. What the National Emergency Operations Center does is to monitor so that in the event they need excess capacity, we will arrange and coordinate to assist them as required. Fortunately, we've not had that situation today. We continue to monitor, and if necessary, we will support accordingly.
Now, you spoke of the municipal corporations, and that leads me to ask about the actions or personal actions that individuals can take to help mitigate potential damage. Now, you speaking about the corporation led me to ask that question because one of the things is people have been talking about being able to access sandbags from those corporations. So what are some of the other things that people can do where they are to help mitigate potential disasters?
Unfortunately, this year, the ODPM would have issued several thousand sandbags to the various agencies. So they are right now, right now should be in a very good position with regard to sandbags. So sandbagging, as you indicated, is one of the things, but we continue to urge citizens to look at your property. Always things that could be improved. For example, have you cleared your guttering? Have you cleared the drains around your home? Because those are the things that are going to impact your personal comfort. We also ask persons to get together and look at challenges within your street, within your community, and see how you could improve those things. So it starts with you, and you have to understand you have a responsibility to your community as well.
All right, thank you so much, Major General Rodney Smart, the CEO of the ODPM. Now we go back to Ian Wallace. Now we started speaking a little earlier about some of the places that have a history of being under the weather, literally and figuratively. Can you take us through that? I think the term that I'm looking for is quadrants.
Oh, well, yes. Well, that will apply usually as we get towards strong tropical storms and more so for hurricanes. You'll find that as a tropical cyclone, that is the broad term for these systems, as they move in the direction that they move, that motion relative added to the winds tends to bring the strongest winds, especially towards the northern quadrant. So you'll find that if you're on the northern side of the tropical cyclone, you tend to find the strongest winds, which is why having a system pass towards the south of you is not necessarily all good news. And obviously, islands such as Barbados and St. Vincent and Grenada, some parts of Tobago as well, they've obviously over historical times seen the effect of being on the northern side of a tropical cyclone, that northern semicircle. But for this system, Tropical Storm Gonzalo, it is still rather ragged, rather poorly organized, but it will have pockets of intense downpours. And in those downpours, you will likely see downdrafts and some of those gusty winds in parts of Tobago could be in excess of 85 kilometers per hour. For Trinidad, looking at gusts maybe over 65 kilometers per hour, if that. So obviously for the passage of Tropical Storm Gonzalo, this is what we tend to watch for as meteorologists as the system moves through. But right now, Gonzalo, as I said, it is passing through the island, and we'll likely still see the effects of that with this afternoon, still remaining cloudy with areas, broad areas seeing rainfall, as well as those intense showers, and the rainfall amounts looking at possibilities of 25 to 50 millimeters, maybe isolated amounts of 75 millimeters of rainfall. And that obviously adds to the risk of landslides and landslips. And obviously also remember that in those downdrafts and after some of this rainfall that's gone through, it could obviously loosen the soil around the parts of trees, etc. So you could see maybe trees are toppling over, and the winds, which are around 65 kilometers per hour in places, you will notice that could also break twigs and branches off of trees. So that's how basically the quadrant system works. And for Trinidad, most areas of north and east Trinidad, we're used to seeing most of the rainfall during the year falling in these eastern areas. So that's obviously the way we can find those impacts. But as the system moves across to the west, you will also notice that along the northern range, even into parts of northwest Trinidad, even parts of southwest Trinidad as well, they begin to see some of these rainfall events. So obviously we're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. And there will be a next update from 2 p.m. That's from National Hurricane Center as well as from the Meteorological Service. So we'll be back after that, and we'll give you a further update. DK?
Thank you very much, Ian. So as Ian said, we will be back, and that time will be 3 o'clock for us to give you another update. Now, as Ian was speaking about different areas, you'll also see on the screen, we are supplying the numbers for different corporations, be it city or regional. So you will see that as this newscast progresses. But continuing Caribbean Airlines has cancelled all flights between Trinidad and Tobago due to the passage of Tropical Storm Gonzalo. In a media release, CAL announced that all domestic flights between 8:20 a.m. and 6:55 p.m. today have been cancelled. The airline says that passengers will be re-accommodated on Boeing 737 jet services on Sunday. Flights will depart from Trinidad to Tobago on Sunday at 12:30 p.m. and at 4 p.m. Flights from Tobago will depart to Trinidad at 2 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. CAL has advised the customers to visit its website for the flight status before going to the airport. Now, we understand it's somewhat quiet in Tobago at this time, but earlier, as the pictures show, there was some minor damage in Tobago. Trees were felled and the roof of a bus stop was blown off. Now, we will keep you updated throughout the afternoon as it pertains to activities in the Sister Isle, but that right now is TTT News at noon. I'm DK Rosta. Thank you for tuning in.